Our staff began to provide pro se assistance to detainees at the Cibola facility. And if you guys don't know, the facility is about an hour and 15 minutes west of Albuquerque in Milan, New Mexico. We have a partner organization there, the Santa Fe Dreamers Project, that helps us work with the asylum seekers there and letting them know about what the asylum process is in the United States, and also referring them to pro bono legal assistance if they need it. Beginning in February of last year, I also began to represent immigrants held at the Otero facility, which is the Otero County Processing Center in Chaparral, New Mexico. And our staff actively coordinates with other advocacy and legal service providers that directly serve that facility. And so that facility is about 4 hours away from Albuquerque. It's about 30 minutes north of El Paso. Throughout the past several years, the federal government has grown to rely on privately run immigrant prisons to enforce immigration policy. The expansion of immigrant detention has grown exponentially, skyrocketing from 5,000 detainees in 1994, 19,000 in 2001, to over 39,000 in 2017. Under President Trump, the federal government has indicated that every undocumented immigrant can be targeted for deportation, and the detention of immigrants has now become the norm. Since the beginning of last year, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, which is the agency tasked with enforcing immigration laws, has been categorically denying the release of those with long ties to the United States, asylum seekers, and those who otherwise don't pose a threat to public safety, requiring immigrant detainees to request release before immigration judges, or to sit in detention while their cases wind their way through the legal system. So it's important to note that under the Obama administration, those that were determined not to be public safety threats or that had strong community ties to the United States were released and not held in detention. Under this administration, the risk classification assessment system, which is a computerized assessment system, automatically requires detention. And so immigrants have to go before an immigration judge if they're eligible for bond to request release. Which means that immigrants will likely stay 2 to 3 months longer in detention. If they're able to obtain an attorney, it can take longer if they don't have an attorney because they just don't know what the process is like. It's important to note that with a lawyer, an immigrant is 10 times more likely to prevail in their case, but only % of detained immigrants have legal representation. Most recently, we've seen the Trump administration use immigrant detention to deter asylum seekers from coming to the United States by separating parents from their children at the border. In a purported attempt to reverse this policy, the president called for the expansion and indefinite detention of immigrant families. It is apparent that the federal government's policy is to expand the detention of immigrants in the United States, regardless of their ties to our country or the reasons why they're seeking refuge, even to go as far as to use it as a tool against them. With ICE spending more than $2 billion a year on immigrant detention through privately run facilities, this expansion is likely not to stop, as profits for these private prisons are expected to soar. What is most concerning is that under this backdrop, corporations like CoreCivic, which runs the Cibola County Correctional Center, and the Management and Training Center, which runs the Otero County Processing Center, have long-standing and well-documented track records of abuse of immigrant detainees. In June 2016, the Department of Justice's Bureau of Prisons announced that after 16 years of operation, it would shut down the Cibola County Correctional Center. It was run by CoreCivic, which was formerly known as the Corrections Corporation of America, and due to a history of medical neglect and inadequate safety conditions, the Bureau of Prisons decided to shut down that facility. Through its track record, the deaths of 3 inmates occurred. However, just a few months later, the County of Cibola entered into an intergovernmental service agreement, or known as an IGSA, with ICE to house immigrants for immigration violations. It's important to note that the closure of Cibola County Correctional Center in mid-2016 was also, it coincided with the Department of Justice's position under the Obama administration to end its reliance on the private prison industry to house federal inmates. At that moment in time, the Cibola County Correctional Center also housed non-citizens, but that was for federal crimes, or immigration-related crimes. So the county entered into a sub-agreement after entering the IGSA with ICE with CoreCivic to continue, so that CoreCivic could continue running that facility. Without much scrutiny, the sub-agreement between the County of Cibola and CoreCivic was approved by the New Mexico Attorney General's Office. So under New Mexico law, the Attorney General's Office must approve contracts between counties and private prisons running jails in our state. Under the new IDSA, the patterns of medical neglect and inadequate safety conditions have continued. For example, in May, Roxana Hernandez, a trans woman housed at Cibola facility's trans unit, died while in custody due to dehydration, pneumonia, and complications regarding to HIV, all of which are treatable conditions. This is not an isolated incident. Detainees have reported incidents of rape, suicide attempts, harassment, and dehumanizing treatment by guards, and lack of adequate food, and that's under the current contract. The Cibola facility is also center stage for the President's family separation policy. Currently, there are about 70 fathers at the Cibola facility who have been separated from their children as a result of the Department of Justice's criminal prosecution of migrants at our southern border. Unfortunately, the federal government has made it near certain that these fathers will remain in federal custody until their cases are resolved, and has failed to establish a process for fathers to know where their children are being held. And I'm not sure if you have them before you. Someone's bringing them to me, but we've submitted several letters to the committee in an electronic format. I'm not sure if you got them. Great. And the translations are also connected to those letters. Those letters are from fathers who are currently sitting at the Cibola County Correctional Center that describe their heartache, isolation, and inability to speak with their children. And just a few examples of those letters. Right now, Macedonio sits in a cell at the Cibola facility. He was separated from his 10-year-old daughter after spending 2 days detained in cells known as hieleras, or in English, freezers, at the border. They're called freezers because they're so cold that they're just known as freezers. In a moment of helplessness, Macedonio asked a young girl separated from her family to care for his 10-year-old daughter. It's been over 40 days since he has known anything from her. Right now, Juan also sits at the Cibola County facility. He was separated from his 16-year-old daughter at the border. He was told that they would only be separated 2 to 3 days, but over 2 months have passed now, and he still has not seen her. Juan has only been able to talk with her twice over the phone since then. And there's also Jose. He has been separated from his son for over 31 days and had to miss his son's 16th birthday. Though Jose has been able to speak to his son once, he did not have the chance to ask where his son was. Until this day, he still does not know. The Otero County Processing Center is no different. The Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General authored a report on its unannounced visit to that facility in December of 2017, and I believe I saw that report was also being shared. The OIG, or the Office of Inspector General, found that there were delays in medical care, unsanitary conditions, and concerns with the staff's inhumane treatment of detainees, misuse of solitary confinement as punishment, and discouraging detainees from complaining. And I think it's important to note that the detention of immigrants in these prisons is for a civil violation. It's not for a criminal violation. And our Supreme Court and our laws generally recognize that the treatment of immigrants is not a punishment. It's actually meant to be temporary so that immigrants can proceed with the legal process of determining if they can stay in our country. I have represented several individuals held there who have confirmed the inhumane and abusive treatment that you see in that report. For example, there's Manuel, who was temporarily detained at both Otero and Cibola facilities. Manuel has diabetes and his health declined due to not receiving the proper medication on time. Additionally, the staff of the Otero facility refused to meet his dietary requirements, which caused him to experience hair loss, lose his vision, and his legs to swell. This led to high blood pressure and for his arthritis to worsen. There's also Alberto, whose health declined during his detention at the Adriel facility. His vision was impaired and his arms had breakouts due to not receiving his daily allergy medication. Similarly to Manuel, Alberto was not able to control his diet due to lack of nutritious food, despite his doctor previously warning him that he was at risk of getting diabetes and having high cholesterol. And lastly, as another story, there's Carlos. Before his detention, Carlos had received surgery in his abdomen. His pain resurfaced while detained at Otero, and despite requesting to see a doctor for this issue on multiple occasions, he was only given over-the-counter pain medication. Our state has the opportunity to join other states and localities to prevent the federal government from using New Mexico to further its irrational and inhumane immigration policies. States like California provide a model for holding immigration detention facilities accountable, while ending the expansion of immigrant detention in general. Additionally, localities like Williamson County and Taylor, Texas, the city councils in Springfield, Oregon, and Sacramento, California, have ended immigrant detention contracts with ICE. These developments show that there is a growing consensus that the federal government and private prisons cannot be trusted to provide safe and humane detention centers. The New Mexico Immigrant Law Center urges that this committee recommend ending the practice of detaining immigrants for civil immigration violations in our state. The federal government's increased reliance on immigrant detention only indicates that expansion will continue. However, ICE and private prison companies have shown time and again that they're unable or unwilling to uphold humane practices and adequate medical care at those facilities. At the very least, NMILC urges for legislation that would prevent the expansion of immigrant detention centers in our state by placing a moratorium on allowing counties to enter into new IGSAs with ICE. Though we know that CoreCivic and the Management and Training Corporation have long and well-documented histories of abuses and medical neglect, it is also imperative that legislation include requiring the Attorney General's office to conduct unannounced inspections. And I know that the wardens did invite you all to go to these facilities. And I do want to note that the Office of Inspector General's report from December of last year was actually from an unannounced visit, which I think is important for folks to be able to see the actual conditions and the runnings of these prisons. And so just continuing on to the point, to require the Attorney General's office to conduct unannounced inspections to monitor existing facilities while providing routine reporting to the legislature on its findings. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will consider these recommendations. NMILC would be happy to work with you all and this committee as this committee explores the opportunity for legislation that brings in some of these practices by private prisons in our state. Thank you.